gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of the Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, Quinn. At least it's how I'm known here on the program, and at this point, really nowhere else. And I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective. You just heard Revel 9's All I've Become at the top of the show. That has been our opening theme song here at the Quinn Spinn since the great year of 2014, and it will be until the very end of days. And I am joined straight out of Richmond, Virginia by Roc Raw. He is the founder of Renaissance Recordings, an artist-centric record label in Richmond, Virginia. And we share so many fantastic insights. And of course, we share a lot of common ground and common values about the creative journey. So this is a conversation that you need to hear, especially if you are an independent artist or creative who is building the thing, whatever the thing is. So I'm going to take you to it, and I'll be back at the end to send us out. Is it going? It says it's going. Okay.
Yep.
It didn't tell me recording started. So I wasn't sure. All right. Okay, everyone, we are here on the Quinn Spinn. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I have the honor of being joined today by Roc Raw, who is the founder of Renaissance Recordings, based in Richmond, Virginia. And they are a collective-driven record label that puts ownership, authenticity, and artistry above all. So first of all, I want to thank you for joining us today, sir. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day.
No problem, man. I'm glad to be here.
Happy to have you. And, when we first got connected, you actually reached out just looking to connect, looking to see how we could collaborate. And this was the first thing we thought of. And the values as far as what we're trying to do and provide in terms of resources, in terms of opportunities for artists, very much aligned here. So really looking forward to this conversation. And so I gave you a little intro, but I'm going to let you give yourself a more in-depth one by answering the three standard questions. Of course, those questions are: who are you? What are your passions? And why on earth would you want to come on the Quinn Spinn?
I am Roc Raw. I am, like you said, the founder, co-founder of Renaissance Recordings. My passion is in creating. Um, Been doing that since I was a little kid, either drawing or making music or writing stories or anything, any outlet. That's really what my passion is. And when I come to the Quinn Spinn and chop it up with you, man, you know what I mean? And just try to get some information out that maybe people might need to hear. Maybe they get inspired by the journey or something like that. Just trying to touch the people.
So let's dive into that journey and what brought you to the point where you founded Renaissance Recordings and now you're growing as you are. So I want to go back as far back as you want to go, maybe even all the way back to the beginning. And I want to hear about the people, the places, the experiences, of course, the artists, producers who inspired you, who got you on this creative path and got you excited to go on the creative journey.
Well, if we go back to like what started me in music, it was like late '90s. Um, just hip hop at the time. At the time, it was Rap City. Yo MTV Raps was still out, but I was a Rap City kid. I would get home from Rap City every afternoon after school and watch the videos. Couldn't wait for the rapper at the end to do a freestyle in the booth with Tigger, whoever was the host at the time. That's really what kindled my passion for making music and for writing. And then that moved on to me linking up with some like-minded individuals. This is before Renaissance. I was in a rap group known as Crown Jewels around in Richmond, Virginia, and we made a couple albums. We actually our peak would have been when Obama was his first inauguration, his first time being president. We actually made an album called The Great American Bailout, and made we this is before streaming services was popping. This was before it was just easy to put your music out there. So we did it. We printed up. We got like 1,000 copies made. We drove up to the inauguration and we were passing out CDs at the inauguration and things. And you know what I mean. So, but people go their own separate ways and it dwindled down. And then I want to say around 2019, 2018, I got back into making music, and it was all on a whim because a friend of mine just had this concept for an album, and he needed someone to make beats for him. So I was like, yo, I'm not doing nothing. I'll make some beats for you. So like he said he wanted trap beats. I have no idea how to make a trap beat. So I went on YouTube and was watching trap beat tutorials and was doing all that trying to help him make this album. And then um and that never happened. So I'm back in the music making mode, you know what I mean? So I'm just playing around with beats. I'm playing around with recording songs again. And then in 2020, the pandemic hit, and I was working at this job. I was a warehouse supervisor, and when the pandemic hit, I was the only employee who was scheduled to come in. So I was in the warehouse by myself, 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. So like there was not much things happening. So I just ended up uh I think Curtis King, he's a YouTuber who does like beats and things. I was watching some of his videos, and he had this little cheat sheet of what you could do to start a record label. And I read the cheat. I like those things are real easy. Like those are real attainable things. Like start an LLC, blah. Like it was just this list. I was like, okay. I'm at work. I Google all the things on the list. I get them all done that day, or as get the process started that day, and boom, we it's a record label. And I remember I told my boy Sonny about it, who's my partner in it, and he was like, "Hey, if you start a record label, I'll sign to it." I was like, "All right, bet." So that started with him, and it just kept going till it was more friends of ours who were all making music at the time that just wanted to link up and what I mean, collectivize and just try to make strength in numbers type of situation. So that's really where Renaissance came from. It started. If it wasn't for the pandemic, I don't know if I would have ever even had the urge to go out to look up that information to do that. So I mean, blessings come in crazy places sometimes.
And so, of course, a very grassroots beginning to the label. And in that process where we start a thing, and then all of a sudden, we have people that want to get involved, we have different collaborators coming into the fold. There are a lot of lessons that we learn along the way, right? And a lot of things that kind of come up in the process of that maybe we weren't expecting. Was there anything that in those early days of forming Renaissance that kind of jumped out at you as a surprise, in the process, or maybe something that you weren't aware of before that now you find to be invaluable information on the journey currently?
I was surprised at because I don't think I was. I didn't have a full idea of what streaming was and like how much you get paid for streams and things like that. Because like I was just in it to try to make music. I just wanted to make music, and I know getting them out there on Spotify and all these is the fastest way to get it to the people. But then once I started actually getting into the business side of it and trying to learn things, from a label standpoint, I'm like fractions of a penny is crazy. Like fractions of a penny. And to a certain extent, I understand the logic behind it, like why it is what it is, but like I still can't, what I mean? I can't make myself be okay with it. You know what I mean? So like that's something I learned. I didn't learn it early on. I learned it progressively as we were making these releases. And like I said, we're still in it just to make music. Like we're not really trying to get rich doing this, but at the same time, like that is just crazy, because what is your overhead? Like why? You know what I mean? So yeah, that's one thing that I really, but like as far as just like anything like other than that, I just learned that when you work with other people and you all have like the same goal in mind, it's much easier to reach that goal than it is to be by yourself. You know what I mean? With that same, because like it's like if you have all this positive energy pushing towards this one direction, it's almost like nothing could slow it down. Like no barrier, you could just run through barriers and make your own way. So that's one thing. Like when you all have like-mindedness, it's almost invincible.
And I think too, like having people that have different strengths on your team, like that's definitely something that
Yeah.
I have found it to be so, so valuable, especially recently. with the team that we're building at UMC. Like, I've always been like the big picture visionary pie in the sky kind of guy. But when it comes down to like brass tacks, what do we need to do today to move the ball forward? Like, I'm good at communicating ideas as far as what other people should do, but when it comes to me, like I need somebody to like rein me in from all my pie in the sky ideas. And so
Hmm.
well, I want to give a shout out to my partner Joe Boss, who is a tremendous, tremendous asset in that and so many other regards, who like, reins me in when I start thinking like super lofty, which of course we need to think lofty for where we're going and intend to go, right? But also when I start getting in my head about the million things that need to happen, like it's good to have that person that brings me back to right now and is like, okay, here's what needs to be executed. And I think too, the other thing you said about streaming, it's interesting because on one hand you do understand it. It's like, the companies wouldn't stay in business if they paid everybody more. However,
Yeah.
their business model is not conducive to the business model an independent artist needs to implement in order to not only survive but grow their platform. And so it's requiring us really to reposition how we view streaming. It's not, and music in general, like the actual like product of music, for lack of a better term, isn't necessarily going to be the thing that drives the revenue. It's more a marketing tool to get people to go to the shows, to get people to tap into the experiences and spend the money with us, right? And it's a different game now than I think it was, pre-streaming where like record sales drove so much of the revenue. Now it's such a
Hmm.
small amount, that people make off of streaming, a small fraction of the pie, fractions of a penny literally on each stream, that it's caused us all to reposition how we think of it and search further answers. And so that's what you're doing here with Renaissance. And so again, honoring the essence of hip hop culture while empowering artists to build strong communities and impactful, sustainable platforms. So take us through a little bit of the process of how you're working with artists to help them build and grow and connect to more opportunities.
Well, it's in my experience, like an artist, especially artists at our level, like we all have full-time jobs, we all have families, we all have different responsibilities that we can't focus 100% of our attention on making music, right? But even if you could, you need marketing, you need promotion, you need strategies, you need planning, you need all scheduling, all these things. So that those are the things that we try to build an infrastructure for our artists. It's like I'm sitting here, I'm learning everything I can. I'm reading all these books, I'm watching all these videos. Like I'm trying to become a source of knowledge so that when one of our artists has a question like what should a rollout plan for this album be like, or like I have some type of answer for them, or I have some type of path for them to go on. Like we have actual setup process where like our artists are free to make music whenever they want to, however they want to. Like we don't constrain them as far as that goes. But once they feel like their project is finished or they have something they want to release to the world and they want it released under Renaissance, we have a release meeting. We have a release plan meeting where we go through these steps and we said, all right, when can we schedule a date to shoot your first music video? When can we schedule a date for a photo shoot? When will we announce that this album is coming out? When we, what I mean? And then based on all that, that's when we come out with a release date. That's when, what I mean, things like this. So I like just stuff like that. I feel like that's some things that a regular artist on our level wouldn't necessarily think about, or even have the time to try to get good at it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like I'm trying to fast track people in that nature. You know what I mean? And then on another token, it's like just being in the studio around all these other artists and things like that. It's like a steel sharpens steel situation, also. You know what I mean? So it's like it's really like the feeling or the essence that I was trying to recreate when I was, approaching people to be Renaissance members and things like that is right after Rockefeller split, Dame Dash I think he had bought like a warehouse or airport hangar or something like that. And he just had like artists there. Like Wale was there, Currency, Wiz Khalifa. I think it was all before they all like blew up, but like they was all just there creating, like just like being around each other. They was on each other's song. There was like a painter there. There would be painting. There would be photo shoots right there. Like so, like that is actually my end game goal is trying to get some type of brick and mortar building, so like we can do something like that as well. But like that's the inspiration behind everything.
And I think something very important you said is that steel sharpens steel, that idea of having other people around you rowing in the same direction. It goes back to the team building
Hmm.
example, right? Not only having a team of other artists around you and you're all pushing each other toward your best, but having a team of people that can help you plan, help you strategize, help you stay accountable. Because, I mean, truthfully, a lot of artists don't necessarily want to think of the business logistics. Like, that's not why we get into the business, right? Like
Hmm.
even starting this podcast, I started it because I needed an outlet from corporate America. I didn't necessarily start it as an entrepreneurial venture, and Lord knows I knew nothing about that world 12 years ago when I started this show. But you learn it as you go, and as you go, you want to impart those lessons on other people. You want to help shorten that time for others, right? To help them on
Hmm.
their journeys. And I think it's an important thing that we all on the creative journey have to come to is like we can't do it ourselves. It takes time, it takes iteration, it takes planning, it takes strategy, accountability. And I think so often we're so excited about our creative output as well. We just want to get it out in the world. There's an artist who's a very good friend of mine back home who I'm not going to name names, but he was just like, yeah, man, I got this single. I want to release it June 1st. This was just like this, like 2 days ago. I'm like, June
Hmm.
1st? It's dude, that's like 2 weeks from now, less than 2 weeks from now. Like, let's actually like
Hmm.
come up with a plan for you, you know, because it's like
Yeah.
it's gonna, I know the music's gonna be good because it always is. Like, it deserves to be heard. Like, let's like get a release strategy going. Let's start to like, get that process, as far as, getting it into the DSPs, get it, considered for
Hmm.
editorial, like all of that. Like, let's give it a
Exactly.
chance to actually, do something once it's out in the world, as opposed to just releasing it. And it's like, okay, that was fun, and then,
Yeah. And then what? Yeah.
yeah, and
Like
then,
there was a I just seen a video yesterday where a guy said something and it struck a nerve with me. He said, I promise you that song you recorded today, nobody wants to hear it tomorrow. I promise you. He said, the like we could wait. Do it right. Like we didn't even know you was recording nothing.
yeah, yeah. And I think like, doing it right's important. And I think you balance it out too with you don't want to wait too long to where you're not,
Hmm.
like making any progress to where there's no momentum. You don't want to go with the flow so much as an artist or, anybody building a creative platform where it's just like, yeah, I'm just seeing where things go. Because we've all
Hmm.
been there where we're just seeing where things go and 2, 3 years later, they haven't really gone the way we wanted them to. Like it takes a
Exactly.
certain level of intention, but all that to say, you don't want to rush into that. You don't want to just be like, okay, this is awesome. I'm going to put it out and then it's going to blow up. Like you want to have some kind of strategy for getting it out into the world, for building that awareness, for getting it in the hands of press, for getting it into the hands of radio, and to perhaps build some experiences, even a tour around the new music, right? To get it in more
Hmm.
eyes and ears. Like that takes time and that takes planning and that takes coordination with other people, other organizations, right? And so that's the game of it though. It's not just okay, I write song, I release song, and then song blows up. There's a lot that goes into that process. And the truth is you might release it and it might never blow up, but each time out you learn something in that process, right? And each
Yep.
time out you're able to refine it to where you're more informed and you're able to act from a place of that information to where the next thing might hit, or maybe it's at least building more momentum for you. And as you do it over time, you keep iterating, you keep building that awareness. More and more people are going to become aware. You're going to show up consistently in that process as well. And that's what's going to keep you on people's radar is how are you consistently giving them something that they want to engage with, tap in with, and that they find value in consuming.
Hmm. Definitely.
And so, based in Richmond, Virginia, of course, Renaissance, you are based in Richmond, Virginia as well. Now, a quote unquote non-industry market, although I would argue that, the traditional industry is breaking in a number of ways, and that includes geography. But
Hmm.
with that being said, I think there are things that we learn in these different pockets around the country, around the world that aren't New York or LA or Nashville, right? where creativity has a lot of room to breathe, where it's not so, where the industry doesn't necessarily have its hooks in. You know, there are things that we're able to dive into about the creative process and really go on the journey unimpeded, you know, in a smaller market. I came here to Nashville from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, same thing. Like that's where you can really, you know, a place like that's where you can really hone your chops and like, you know, get those at bats, get those reps, right? What
Hmm.
what value do you find, you know, being in Richmond, or what perspective do you feel like being in a market like Richmond gives you that you might not get in a New York or an LA that's invaluable to the road ahead should an artist want to make the leap to one of those markets or should they want to expand past the one that they're in?
Um, Richmond is a tough place to actually make it, right? And it's only because like just the my take on it is the majority of the music loving population in Richmond, the immediate area of Richmond, they love you more when other people love you. You know what I mean? Um, so like if you get a song popping in Miami or something like that, and then Richmond hear about that would make Richmond love you more than you know what I mean before. So like having to overcome that and actually get love based off of just our hard work and the quality of music we put out and maybe even the amount of music we put out, just beating them up until they start loving us. Like I had to learn that. But like once that people love you here, they love you forever. You know what I mean? Like you're good to go. Um, I actually had to chill out a minute because I don't like people. I do love people, but I don't like people. Right. So I was out with my son one day and we go out to lunch every weekend or whatever. And we was at lunch and somebody came to me, hey, ain't you Roc Raw? And like that was the first time that's ever happened to me. And like it was cool because it was in front of my son, but I was like, I don't like this. Like this is unsettling. But like that just is an example of like people like we're so close knit here. It's like once you get in the paper or you get on the news or something like that, it's like people feel like they're made it on the paper with you or they made it to the news with like it's real family because Richmond is not that big of a city. Like Richmond itself is small, but like there's surrounding areas of Richmond that are people classify as Richmond also, right? So, but like the main Richmond city is not a big city at all, and it's hard. A lot of people moved away from here to make it in other places just because of how hard it was to try to sustain yourself here. But but yeah, I don't know what the difference would be actually between here and because I've never lived anywhere else. You know what I mean? So I don't know how easy it is in New York or hard it is in New York or like Nashville or LA, but I think every place has its ups and its downs, so it's good points and its bad points, and you know, yeah, I think it's getting a lot better recently too, because like there's more outlets being made, and there's more events, there's more venues that have opened up in the last 4 or 5 years. Like the fact that VCU has gotten so big has helped Richmond because the money is coming in from them, and then all these people are going to VCU that are from all over the country, all over the world, is making it more eclectic and making it more diverse. So it's just like the last 10 years has been to see how what Richmond has become has been amazing. But like right now, it's a foodie place and it's a music place.
And I think no matter where you are too, like there is that sense of, you know, when you stay local, like it can become a merry-go-round. And that's even the case, you know, with a place like Nashville. Like after a while, even though you're in Nashville, Music City purportedly, right? Like you
Hmm.
get in this cycle where you're playing a lot of the same shows at the same venues with the same people for the same people.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, you need to branch out. That happens, I think, no matter where you are. Like, anywhere can become a small world. Yeah,
Yep.
even a city like Nashville, which is, purportedly, the hub of the music industry. Now, I've talked to people in other cities who might even challenge that point and challenge whether there is a hub with this more globalized world that we're in.
Yeah.
But I think there's value in getting out of your hometown too and going and using what you've built there, incubating it there, getting those chops up, getting the ideas, the concepts together, and then you branch out and see how it hits in other markets. Then you start to build relationships, pipelines to other ecosystems, connect with other artists, connect with other industry folks, and build these powerful networks. And that's something that you're doing with Renaissance as well. You're reaching out on behalf of your artists, really taking the lead on behalf of your community to other creators, to other networks. And in the process, I'm sure you're learning plenty of things and finding plenty of resources. What are some of the most important things that you've found in the process of branching out of Richmond and in turn also building awareness of what's happening right there at home?
Um, well, I think it's just it just comes down to you got to reach out to people. You know what I mean? Like that's the main thing. Like once you get over that hurdle, I will thank like the different AIs and things like that to help you write emails and stuff like that and like that. Like that has helped one because like there'll be so many times where like a few years ago I would have all this information, I would have all these contacts. But like how do I like I don't know how to start talking to this. Like, what do I say? How do I start this conversation? And like so like those AI writing modules and all that is chat GPT, all those type of things have helped just with like giving you even ideas of how because like I would never want something to write something completely for me, but like I could type in something like this guy owns a club and he has this type of music. How should I greet him? Like how could I cold call him, I guess, and then they'll give, hey, blah blah blah. It's a good idea. Let me try that. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it does. So that helps. That's a resource. I think any artist or label or whatever, they should not shun any type of new technology. They should try to embrace it. Well, whether it be these new streaming services, new avenues or whatever. Like, just look into it. Like, do yourself that service of just you know, um, just I always say, don't try to be John Henry, yo. Don't die fighting against a machine. You know what I'm saying? Like at the very least, I'm nice to my AI. If the AI ever take over, I'm good. Like I've been very polite to them. But like other than like I think that's one of the key things is like I've learned about different like learn as much as you can is because like I've just been at YouTube University. I learned how to edit videos by myself. I learned how to edit photos by myself. I learned how to audio engineer, like all these things, just because I it had to be done. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to sit around and wait to or save up money to get somebody else to do it, or like if it got to be done, do it. It might not be right, but you're going to learn. You got to fail a whole lot of times to get good. So just fail fast.
Couple things you said there I really want to touch on. I think first the embrace of new technology, like the developments in technology are going to happen whether we're on board with them or not, right? And so
Yeah,
it's up to
exactly.
us as creators to figure out how to best leverage those in a way that makes sense for us. I mean, most of the artists, if not all of the artists that I know and talk to and meet, like none of them want AI to outright create the art for them, right? Like, but there are administrative tasks that can be performed with AI. ChatGPT is
Yes.
very helpful in that regard. Okay, I have all these ideas, help me turn it into something, saves a lot of time, right?
Hmm.
But the technology and the developments in the technology are always going to happen. And if you're not embracing those developments or at least learning as much as you can about them to be quote unquote dangerous, you're falling behind, and that's, I remember even 10 years ago, like seeing that with people like rallying against streaming, for example. Like, I'm not putting
Hmm.
my music up on those streaming things and handing me CDs. If you hand somebody a CD now, most people don't even have a CD player, so you're really going to be behind the eight ball in that
That's a
regard.
fact.
Like, there has to be some willingness to bend, not necessarily break, as far as what's happening. And another thing you said too that I really want to touch on is like learn as many skills as you can, at least enough to know what good is. Because
Yeah.
ideally, as the person building the platform, as like the face of the platform, you're not going to be doing all these things forever. Like I find myself
Hmm.
in a place right now where in certain respects, I am the CEO and the content creator and the tour bus driver and this, that, and the other. But I'm also finding a lot of joy in delegating tasks, especially because I know what I'm looking for because I've spent so much time learning about those things. Like,
Hmm.
am I the person creating all of our multimedia, all of our videos? No, not anymore. But I know what I'm looking for and I know like what brand specific things that I want, because I spend enough time toiling away at that stuff late nights and early mornings to know. And without that experience, that hands-on experience, you're kind of robbing yourself of the opportunity as a creative to know what to look for and to know what good is so you can properly communicate that to the team, to the people you're
Hmm.
delegating to. That's such an important thing. And something that, again, I think like when artists start out, they don't necessarily think of because they're not necessarily viewing themselves as entrepreneurs, as content creators. I just want to write songs and release songs and perform my songs. That's great. And if that's all you want to do, truly all you want to do, you can do that. But if you want to build a platform and a business and a life for yourself out of it, it's a different conversation.
Hmm. Exactly.
So let's talk about what's coming up here for the artists on Renaissance. Any new releases coming up? Any events we need to know about? What's happening in your world?
Well, yeah. This year we've already released two albums. By the time this podcast out, our third would have been released. So first was 11:59 by our artist Miss Simone J. That was released, I believe, in February. Um, and then 28 Herringbones by the group Cult Classic, which is a combination of my partner Sonny Koufax and a producer on the label, Akai Pfeiffer. It's like a Gangstar situation where it's just one rapper and a producer, the whole album. And that came out. We dropped it on streaming maybe like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. But the way we do our releases is we always release our things on our website first as far as like digital downloads, physical copies. You get CDs, vinyls at renaissance-recordings.com. And then maybe like a month, 2 months after that release, we'll release it on streaming. You know what I mean? And so the Cult Classic just got released on streaming like last week. And then by the time people hear this podcast, more than likely, my album has been remixed by Akai Pfeiffer, and that comes out on Renaissance-Recordings on May 27th, I believe. And so yeah. And then after that we have July 8th, we have King Preem. He's dropped an album called The Annexation of Puerto Rico. We just announced that on Instagram like yesterday or the day before. And yeah, we're just keep trying to come out with music. So I think after that we have an EP from an artist named Slumdog called Good Night God Morning, and then Akai Pfeiffer is releasing an album later on this year where it's a compilation album with him just making beats and different artists um, performing on them, and just trying to stay busy. You know, Russ don't sleep, so we're always moving as far as the music goes. Where we're going to try to get visuals out for everything, merchandise out for everything, and just try to keep it going as much as we can.
So one thing I want to touch on that you touched on was the direct-to-consumer model before putting the music on streaming. And I know a lot of artists who tap in with us are going to be interested in that because they're doing the same thing or at least interested in learning how to do it properly. Of course, Bandcamp Fridays are a big thing over on Bandcamp occasionally. And a lot of folks are setting up subscription models or just selling music directly on their websites.
Hmm.
NFTs are a big thing right now.
Yeah.
So, how have you found that model working for you? And what are some of the results you've seen going direct to consumer first before putting everything out for the world to enjoy at their leisure?
I've I think we've had progressively more success since we started that model. So like I said, Simone's album was the first one we dropped this year, but we actually started doing this like I think two releases before that. But each time we've done it, we've gotten more success than the previous time, just because I guess we're getting better at promoting, we're getting better at actually, where we're pinpointing what our fan base is. And so, what I mean, it's all that type of Google ad campaign and all that, trying to find out what country you're good in, what state you're good in, and all that, all those logistics. So like once we're ironing out all those things, but like every campaign we've done has been more successful than the last. So for anyone who would be interested in doing something like that, I would go right, because like even if you look at it like, even if you sell one digital copy of your project for like $10, you know how long it'll take you to make $10 in streams? Like, so if you just look at it like that, it's already, what I mean, a win-win. And most people will buy physical copies. From my estimation, they don't really buy it to listen to the physical copy. They buy it to support because they're a fan. They buy it like a collector's item type of thing. Like we sell vinyls now because of we found there's this website called Elastistage, I think it's called, where they do like on-demand vinyl printing, right? So like we don't even have any inventory of vinyl. Someone places an order on the website, and we ship it right from there to the person. And like I don't think everyone who's buying a vinyl has a record player, but like some people just collect vinyl. Some people just want to have something physical to commemorate this release that digital, like Spotify streaming services, just don't provide anyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it gives you a chance to really engage and build relationships and provide something of unique value to your audience. Because when you go direct to consumer like that as well, you also have the opportunity to include exclusives, maybe some other unreleased
Yeah,
tracks that they're not going to get on streaming, right? Like
exactly.
live
Yes.
cuts, all of that, right? So you have an opportunity to like make it worth their while as far as like if you get it directly from me, I'm going to give you more value than you're even going to find when it's on streaming because that's ultimately what we're doing, right? Is we're
Hmm.
competing for market share versus everybody else, trying to provide some kind of entertainment out there, right? And so there needs to be something unique that they're not going to get anywhere else, that they can't even get if they go over to Spotify or Apple Music and just pull it up, right? So I think it's a very powerful way forward. And as we become more savvy, as a collective whole as creatives in doing that, that's where the innovation is really going to come, and that's where we're really going to change the game as far as how to remonetize music, the actual physical product of music, because that day is coming and it already is here in some respects, but we're moving toward an age where, the streaming platforms will be put in their proper context, I think, where they'll be more as like marketing tools after the fact, right? This is
Hmm.
where your music is after the fact, after this period, like y'all are pioneering right now, where it's like you have a couple months to go pick it up on your own and tap in with more of the universe behind the project. And then, okay, if you want to just go pull it up on your Spotify a couple months later, just out of convenience, you can. But I think by baking those valuable experiences into the release and making it something that feels exclusive right off the bat, like that's the sauce right there. And so y'all are really
Hmm.
pioneering that, and that's amazing foresight. And I'm sure learning plenty of lessons in the process. And that brings me to one of my final questions, one of my favorite questions to ask here on the show. And I call it The Big Lesson, sponsored by my book, 60 Plus Lessons from the Creative Journey, a handy guide for the budding entrepreneur, out now on Amazon and Kindle Spark, or in the trunk of my car if you see me in person. And that lesson is, or that question is rather, if there is one lesson about the creative journey you would go back and teach your younger self, or the younger self that started Renaissance Recordings even, what would that lesson be?
Don't hold nothing. Don't hold anything. Don't wait. Like we talked about earlier, like sometimes you wait too long to release stuff. Like your hard drive ain't helping nobody. You know what I mean? Like you got beats in your hard drive, get them out. You can sell your beats. You know what I mean? You got music on your hard drive, get it out. Like and we're talking about the direct to consumer and DSPs and all that. But in the end, at the end of the day got to end. If you got all those songs on your hard drive, you know what I mean? Forget plans, forget strategy, forget it. Like get it out, get it out. Somebody needs to hear that. somebody like, and so that's the lesson like that I would have wish I would have took more to heart early on because I feel like there might have been some opportunities missed because I held back or I wasn't sure, or like this perfectionist type of thing where like the snare has to be mixed so perfectly. Like, I'm comparing every mix to something Dr. Dre did or every, you know what I mean? Like I'm doing all this extra work where, I mean, there's artists out there who literally record a song and put it out there, won't even mix the record and just put it out there and it'll go, do whatever they want to, do the numbers, go viral, whatever it is. But like that's just a lesson. Like sometimes it's better to just, sometimes you shoot with an M16 instead of a nine. You know what I mean? You just sometimes you spray, sometimes you aim. But when your hard drive is filled up, sometimes you just got to spray.
And if your hard drive's filled up, there are plenty of things you could just kind of put out there and see what kind of traction they gain. And that's going to give you feedback
Yeah.
too, as far as like, okay, maybe people want more of this type of thing. Maybe they want less of this type of
Hmm.
thing. Like everything that you put out, I'm a big baseball guy, and like
Okay.
every single thing you put out, every single effort you make is an at bat. It's a chance to step up to the plate. Sometimes you strike out, sometimes you hit a home run, sometimes you walk, single, sacrifice, bunt, whatever. Whatever
Hmm.
events those correspond to in your own creative journey, that's up to you. But every single thing that you do is a chance to learn and assess. Okay, this worked, do more of that. This didn't work.
Yep.
Okay, what didn't work about it, right? Everything is an opportunity for feedback, whether that feedback rewards you in the immediate moment or it rewards you more long term after you've implemented the lesson. So I think that's really important. Like, lesson number 2 in the book is just start. Like when I started the podcast,
Great lesson.
I just needed an outlet from corporate America so I could stop having panic attacks. And here we
Hmm.
are. Now I'm talking to you. I'm going to London next week for South by Southwest London, all because of this idea, all because I just said, you know what? I listened to my old college radio show and I wanted to start it again. And I heard about this thing people were doing in 2013 called podcasting. No idea what I
Hmm.
was doing, but you just start and you see where it goes. And eventually you stay on that road long enough and you stay in and you dig in when the lessons come, especially the tough ones. And good things are eventually going to happen. The fortune in this industry favors those who outlast all the things that could knock them out of the game, right? And there
Hmm.
is just this sense of resilience that you develop, but you only develop it by playing the game. You don't develop it on the sidelines. So I love that.
That's a fact. And what you said about baseball is a great point. I'm a baseball guy too. As like music is similar to baseball, I think, in respect that like if you bat 3 for 10, you're great. You're a great hitter. You bat 300. Any other sport, that's 30%. That's not good. But like 3 for 10 in music, that's pretty. Like if you, you know what I mean. Like if your bat average is like that, you're in pretty good shape. You know what I mean. So like I think that's a good parallel as well.
Yeah, and I think as creatives, like most of our ideas don't land. Most of our ideas
Hmm.
don't even make it off the cutting room floor. I've forgotten more ideas than I can think of. But the
Yep.
ones that have worked, have really worked now. You know what I mean? And like eventually you gain enough information and enough like muscle memory, for lack of a better term, to where you know what feels right as far as the direction you should go, as far as something that's going to work, as far as the actions you need to take in order to make something successful. If you keep repeating something and it's not working, well then do less of that thing. Like there's feedback and everything, but again, you only do that by being in the game. You only
Hmm.
learn those lessons by potentially falling on your face, by risking falling on your face every time. If you want to tour stadiums and you haven't played a show in a year, what are you doing? Like, how are you ever going
Yep.
to get to those stadium tours if you're not filling up venues? If you're not getting those performance chops down to be on the level of a Dua Lipa, Taylor Swift, who is performing night in, night out at these stadiums for 3 hours at a
Hmm.
time, like you can't even get a band together to play 45 minutes at your local club. How are you going to get there? You've got to keep
Yeah.
swinging, and you can't. Like, here's the thing, too. Like, we all need to take steps back and brief pauses, see the forest for the trees. I have no idea why any independent artist who wants to build a career out of this is taking a 6 to 12 month hiatus. I don't get it. I don't get it. You can't.
Hmm.
You can't unless you're not serious. If you're not serious,
Yeah.
take
Exactly.
all the
Yeah.
hiatus you want. But if you are trying to build a career, you don't build a career at your job by, taking vacation 8 months out of the year. You build a career by showing up every day and doing the work. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. It's a fun job, but it's still a job, as they said in Rock Superstar back in 2000. You still got to show up to work every day. You still got to reinvent. You still have to always iterate and take it one step higher.
Yep.
Love this conversation with Roc Raw from Renaissance Recordings. Before I sign us off, I want to give you a chance to let people know where we can learn more about you and Renaissance online.
You can follow me. I'm mainly on Instagram, but you can follow me everywhere as Roc Raw on all social medias. On Instagram is ROC.RAW. And then the renaissancerecordings.com. You can reach us on our website, renaissance-recordings.com, on Instagram at the Renaissance Recordings, or on Gmail at the Renaissance Recordings at gmail.com. Man, we're easy to find. You Google us, you go to Spotify, type in Renaissance Recordings. We got a playlist with all the entire roster on there. You hit shuffle, press play, enjoy yourself.
Roc Raw and Renaissance Recordings doing big things out of Richmond, Virginia. I will be back to wrap us up here on the Quinn Spinn. All right, there you have it. I want to thank Roc Raw and the team at Renaissance Recordings for not only being a part of the Quinn Spinn today, but for everything that they do to support and foster growth in independent artists. And this has been the Quinn Spinn. 2 N's in Quinn, 2 N's in Spin. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Also on Instagram at Quinn Spinn Official. Again, 2 N's in Quinn and Spin. UMCworldwide.com is our central hub for all things independent music, creativity, community, and more. You can also find us on the socials at UMC Worldwide, on YouTube at UMC Nashville, and join the Underdogs community of ours at community.umcnashville.com. Revel 9's all become going to take us out. You brought us in. Grab some muffins on your way out. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive.